Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about the else part of an if statement. So if you'll see right here, we have an if, but usually we have an if, and inside this is the if conditional block. If this thing is true, then this, I should say the conditional statement, and if that is true, it's a Boolean check, and if that's true, then this thing's inside these two curly brackets, this curly bracket and this curly bracket, are executed. The code in here is run only if this is true. And but the second part of that, so actually let's go ahead and run this. If I go over here and then I go launch, the reason that this launches for me is because in here I copied my path of my index.html and I pasted it in here, and I didn't escape any of the slashes. I just kind of have it all like this. I think that for Windows computers, it looks a little different than this. I think it's just going to be C:/ wherever the file path is, the absolute file path in your computer is. But all right, so let's go ahead and go back to here, and let's run this, and this should open up my website. So let's go ahead and I can do this, and I can do Command-Shift+ to make this a little bigger, and then right-click Inspect, and then we can see our console. All right, cool. So we have a console down there in case we need to see it. And all right, so right now, as it stands, we hit Click Me, and we see our names, and you can see here we're logging the H2 tags that are being wrapped around Bulbasaur, right? So, and nothing else. So if we go back to our JavaScript file, so on press, remember when we click the button, we're actually pressing this, we're calling this method right here. So when we and that's because in our index.html we have a button and have on click, and that's where this method is being called, right? So inside of here we have this if statement, and now what we want to do is let's put a log after this, console.log, and then I'm hitting tab to autocomplete, and I'm going to say after if statement. So this is this is an important thing to understand. So whether this if statement is true or false, this will still run. So this is going to be console.log inside if statement. So when this is correct, when this runs, this will be it'll be inside of there. But so if I do this now, if I save this and I go back to my page and I refresh this and I hit this button, we'll see both inside if statement and after if statement, because we log this and this. But now if I change this to success 2 or something that's not going to match, then as the status comes back, and the status can come back as something other than success, but it's tricky to get it to do that. So we're just going to change the if statement check. So now if I refresh this and I hit this, we're only seeing after if statement, but the after if statement still runs, even though this doesn't run inside of here, because this conditional only works for the things that are in between these two curly brackets. So if this is true, then the things inside of here work. So if I so if we want to put an else though, an else block, so now if this is false, then this will run. This will still run no matter what, but because it's after the if and the else. So if it'd be nice if I could make that go smaller, but so there you go. You can see this right here. So if you have the if statement here, if the if is true, then what's inside this block right here, this code runs. But if this is false, then this code runs. So if I do say console.log, and I'm going to say status was, and colon there, and then I'm going to say plus, and I'm going to concatenate. I'm going to say status right here. So now if I run this, I fixed the success, so that's no longer broken. So if I go back here and I run this again, refresh this, and I click this, I see the inside if statement and after if statement, but this log I just created, it doesn't run because this never gets executed because this was true. This only gets executed, the else block only gets executed if this if statement right here is false. So if I change this now to success 2, so that fails, let's go ahead and refresh this. And now status was success. So now we're seeing this log right here because we went into the else statement. So I said status was success. I probably could have said in else statement to make it easier to see or to understand. But we didn't see inside if statement. So if you see, there's no inside if statement because this was not true. So that's the first idea. Is so what we did here is we added a status, and we can get rid of this log, and we can get rid of this log. So now we have basically an if and an else, and those two are basically giving you a log if this status did not come back success, as opposed to just doing nothing. So so if we save that, that's a good change to make. And now another thing we can look at is breaking this, what it looks like when this is actually broken. So if I put like an X right here, that will break this URL because this is PokeApix is not the website, it's pokeapi.com. This is the domain. When I change the domain, the whole website's broken because there's no path. You know, it's just an invalid website. So now if I go in here and I refresh this and I hit click me, I would expect to see an error. What happened? Did I not save it? Well, for some reason it's not showing the error. Let me put that back. Save that. Hit this again. Click me. Okay, we're working here. It looks like it was failing in a way that it wasn't logging, which is interesting. But let's try this again. Dash D or something like that. Make sure it breaks. Well, that's interesting. So before it seemed like it was giving a different failure message than it is now. So what if we go to change this to just put some characters in there in the path. So if I now refresh this and I hit the button, oh, there we go. Okay, and there we go. Now we got an error. That's what I was looking for. A 404 error. That means it's not found. That means this website is not a valid website. Can't find it. I don't know why it wasn't doing that before, but I finally broke it in the right way so that it failed in the way that I would want it to fail. So as you can see, it did log. It didn't go inside success. It didn't go inside of the status was status either. But that's because this failure was a different type of failure. And if you want to try to capture this failure, you would put a .fail or .error. Yeah, .error here. No, that's not right. I think it's .fail. But we're not going to do that today because that's a whole different path, and we don't need to do that right now. So we're going to go ahead and fix this back to Pokemon. So now that website should be working. As always, it's really good to take small steps and validate where you are each step of the way. So that way you only have one or two things that could be wrong if it doesn't work. So okay, so the next thing we want to look at is the way we're concatenating this right now. If you look at these logs, we see that we are adding H2 before and after each of the names, right? And that's what this concatenation is doing right here. So there's a different way to do this that we want to look at. So that as often the case in code, there's multiple ways to do the same thing. So we want to do this in a refactored way because this is going to be something that's going to be helpful for us later. So we're going to use the DOM, and to use the DOM, you start with document, which is a magic word. It's like it's already imported basically. Document dot create element, and we're going to give this H2. Document dot create. Why is that not? Oh, that's because Okay, I didn't do this right. This is going to be, this is const, which means I have to give it a name. So what I did is I didn't give it a variable name. I was just saying const document.create. Now this returns a value, but it's not a name, so I have to give it a variable name. So this is going to be h2 element equals document.create element h2. So that's what I meant to say. All right, so we have h2 element, and we do this. If we save, everything compiles. If we refresh, we haven't broken the code. Everything's okay. So which means that the compile step works. So now if we would do h2 element, h2 element dot inner HTML, we can say inner HTML. Actually, we can't. Yeah, I think we can. Inner HTML. So now if we say equals, we can just say this equal Pokemon.name. So now if I log this, console.log, and I log name, or HTML, name with h2 tag, what we'll see is if we do h2 element, so now if I log this, you'll be able to see, save, that we have, so if I refresh this, look me, you can see the log shows each one of these, it's the same thing, name with h2 tag. So now I say it's the same thing, but it's not actually the same thing because this is not technically a string. This is an object, and this is technically a string right here. Even though it's converting it, when it does this console log, it converts this into a string. But if we try to pass this directly, it won't work, and I'll show you that. So let's go ahead and let's just return h2 element now. So now if we do this, we'll see what happens. Right now we're seeing Bulbasaur. When we do this, click me, we're not getting the same thing. So this is an object of an HTML. So we have to do this in a different way. So what we would want to do is boy, I forgot how to do that. Oh, it's dot, yeah, it's dot, so it's not inner yeah, this is inner HTML, but now we want to say, instead of return this, we want to do this document get element by ID dot append each one. So we copy this, and it goes into here, and we say dot append, and we do h2 element like that. So we don't return anything from this map, which means it probably shouldn't be a map anymore. Wait, are we in a map? Yeah, we're in a map. This probably should change to a forEach because we're not really caring about what it's returning. So a dot map is a method that returns a list, but a forEach doesn't return a list. And because we don't care about this anymore, because we don't need to do .inner HTML as one list thing, we are now, for each one of these, we're adding each one of these h2 tags. Appending means we're adding it to the list of appended stuff. And so what we want to do is, so we don't have the console log the Pokemon names anymore. What we're going to do is do a .forEach. And now we're saying for each Pokemon, we're saying we're going to append, we're not going to return anything. A forEach doesn't return something. And then we just do this append here. So if we do this now, and now, I hope you followed that, but instead of returning the value of this results list and transforming it into a bunch of tags, we're saying for each tag, which is what the map was doing, the for each basically says, for each item in this list, I want you to do this. I want you to call this function and do this for each item. So this is the first item, and the second item, and the third item. So when the first item on this list, we're going to create an h2 tag for that first item, and then we're going to add the name to that, the Pokemon's name to that tag, and that h2 tag, and then we're going to log that h2 element, but then we're going to append the that h2 element to the displayed text. Remember this get element by ID. Displayed text is this p tag that has the ID of displayed text, so it's going onto there. So all right, so let's go ahead and save this and see if this works. So if I refresh and then I click me, and there we go. Exactly the same behavior, but done a different way. All right, so, and thanks for watching.